The women in the salon, both sides, began a constant chatter with Loretta and Rupert, with comments to Rupert like congratulations, she was going to love dressing up and wait till her first formal and how pretty she looked already. There was no chance for Rupert to answer back and it was clear he didn't want to as Loretta sat happily getting her own nails done. Rupert, believing he was still being protected by Loretta's push, beamed at the comments unabashed and simply looked over at Loretta to mouth a "thank you" when he had the chance. The lady working on his nails decided on a wrap to extend his boyish length almost double, amazing Rupert through the process. Small strips of silk and resin formed his nails before the woman shaped them into a hard thick point under a primed glassy top. She explained the small ultraviolet light she slipped his fingers under was a dryer that hardened the gel in 30 seconds instead of the 30 minutes it once took. It was becoming exciting watching his hands transform before his eyes as the shape took on a decidedly feminine appearance as his stubby fingers became longer and more pointed. It became more exciting when Rupert had to decide on color as the woman shook a small bottle of pink. She had asked, and while Rupert thought about it, Loretta had spoken up. "Honey, match the color of the tiny bow on your new upper garments," Loretta said, bringing a fresh pink to Rupert's cheeks. "I'll bet it's a blush pink, isn't it?" the woman said, picking up the small bottle to show Rupert the color she was talking about. The only way to prove it would be to lift his top, so he simply nodded. "Then pink it is," the woman said, shaking the bottle a little more as she had Rupert switch hands under the dryer. She expertly glided the small brush from the clean cuticle edge to his tip in a single stroke that covered half his nail, then a second that bled the two together into a very reflective glaze of soft pastel pink. Rupert felt suddenly giddy over the ethers and look that took hold of his sight and smell instantly. He had not really considered what the word transition might really mean till this past 2 hours flashed past, rewound, and played over and over again. The shopping, clothes, and now just having his nails done were formidable markers in his life, and he was sure it was Loretta doing some of it. She was calming him, changing him from within, so his attitude without was more accepting. He felt more feminine over the simple change to his fingertips, but not just the tips, as he looked at the mirror behind the woman to see his gold earrings. What would it be like with makeup on, he mused. "Pretty?" the woman asked. "What?" Rupert asked, coming back from his fantasy. "You are very pretty." "Your hands?" "Very," Rupert said as she finished his right hand and started the left after putting his right under the UV light. Loretta nodded her understanding, knowing full well she thought Rupert was of the belief he still held to the feather. It was going to be delightful telling him otherwise at the end of the day as they drove back to her place. She was amazed at the ease this was taking. With his hands as pretty as a young girl's, the woman moved her chair to change her position and began helping Rupert open packages for his makeup as Loretta joined up on the other side. It almost became a party as the other workers, those not with customers and even customers who were finished, grew closer. "I'll be right back," Loretta said, leaving Rupert in a panic for the minutes she was gone, but no chance to worry as the woman doing his face began working. Loretta did return just as the woman finished, Rupert's eyes leaning back to the pleasing smiles of at least 4 women, 2 of which were customers. Meanwhile, Loretta was off to the left and behind where Rupert couldn't make out what she was doing, but the laughter and giggles were demanding he do so. He couldn't move because he was getting a blusher applied. Then lipstick, and finally he was allowed to blot. "One for base, one for color, and one for kissing," the woman said. The faces looking back said it all as Rupert finally had a chance to see what had happened, and he too went silent. Even the pink frosted cupcakes Loretta had brought from the bakery next door didn't change the sensations he felt looking at the girl looking back at him. How odd to be smitten by a girl that he knew was him, he mused. He turned to look at Loretta and tried to think of something to say that would convey how he was feeling. She looked at him. He realized she knew. Of course she knew, he realized. She was using her push to help him. She smiled at him. "I know, honey, I know," Loretta mouthed the words. "Thank you, Loretta," Rupert said. "You're welcome," Loretta said louder this time, and then added, "Go on and have a cupcake, but don't smear your lipstick." The women in the boutique began laughing as each grabbed a pink frosted cupcake and began taking bites that Rupert tried to mimic. 2 customers joined in as the owner began making small cups of coffee. He stood in the middle of the shop, his pink-tipped fingers girlishly holding a cupcake. He was awkward at eating without using his lips.